subscribe. Of course, you can follow me on TikTok and Instagram at Alex Costa, and subscribe if you enjoyed today's video. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys again very soon.
The year is 1936. World War II looms on the horizon. Edward VIII becomes King of England, and 11 months later abdicates the throne. The very next year, this member of the British royal family meets with the newly appointed German Chancellor, Adolf Hitler. Declassified evidence now suggests that Edward VIII might have been closer to members of the Nazi Party than we ever realized. Under the best of circumstances, a duke spending time with Hitler and other Nazi officials is not something the British government would want the world to know about. The fact that a former king, and then Duke of Windsor, was in communication with Nazis just before World War II would have been devastating. So British and other allied leaders did the only thing they could. They buried the truth. Until now. We know without a doubt that a meeting between Edward VIII and Adolf Hitler occurred on October 22nd, 1937. But what did they talk about? And was this member of the royal family a Nazi sympathizer? Edward was no longer king when he met with Hitler. Instead, he was the Duke of Windsor. He remained in the public spotlight as a member of the royal family along with his wife, the Duchess of Windsor, Wallis Simpson. Although no longer king, Edward still had connections and influence in certain aspects of British society. As World War II was all but inevitable, the leadership of Britain was rightfully nervous that one of the members of the royal family was becoming a little too close to the dictator of Germany. As World War II was all but inevitable, the leadership of Britain was rightfully nervous that one of the members of the royal family was becoming a little too close to the dictator of Germany. Edward and his American wife, whom he abdicated the throne to marry, were welcomed with open arms by the Fuhrer and his supporters. There was most likely talk within the Nazi Party about building a relationship with the Duke. This connection might have served them well down the road, and as more and more evidence is coming to light, it seems that Hitler not only wanted to build a relationship with Edward VIII, but might have had plans of reinstating him as a puppet king of England if Germany defeated Britain in the coming war. Once Edward and Wallis arrived in Germany, the Nazis rolled out the red carpet. They were treated to lavish parties and had dinners with the heads of the Nazi Party, including Hermann Göring and Joseph Goebbels. But the highlight of their visit was meeting the Fuhrer himself. Edward and his wife were driven to Adolf Hitler's country home in the Bavarian Alps named Berghof. Once at the estate, the Duke and Duchess of Windsor and Nazi leaders posed for pictures. Then Hitler and Edward had a meeting in secret where they might have discussed the future and what it would hold for each of them. There are varying accounts about this meeting. Some say that Edward criticized Hitler's policies, while others say he supported them. What was uncovered after the war suggests the latter might have been true. Once everyone had their afternoon tea, Edward and Wallis departed Berghof and headed back to England. Many accounts suggest they enjoyed themselves and even were in awe of the Fuhrer and the Nazi Party. The couple had been in Germany for close to 2 weeks when they arrived at each new destination, and they were greeted by cheering crowds. Many people greeted Edward himself with a Nazi salute. The unsettling thing was that Edward would often return the salute. Obviously, this was not the type of behavior that the British government would want the Duke of Windsor to be engaging in, but it didn't seem like Edward cared. Although the photos and visits with Nazi leaders do not definitively prove that there was a friendship between the Duke of Windsor and Hitler, certain documents recovered at the end of the war might suggest this was the case. But let's start at the beginning, with Edward VIII's childhood. To understand how pro-Nazi the Duke might have been, we need to go back in time. In his youth, Edward VIII was known to be fond of the German language and culture. This in and of itself is not completely surprising, since until World War I, the royal family's full last name was Saxe-Coburg-Gotha. This was changed to Windsor, as the original name had clear German origins, which during World War I the royal family did not want to be associated with. Regardless of how the rest of the royal family felt, Edward was fascinated by his German roots. He was close with his German cousins and enjoyed experiencing their culture. As he grew older, he became a little too bold with his support of what was happening in Germany. Edward was documented saying some pretty unsettling things as the Nazi Party gained power. This was long before his meeting with Hitler and Nazi officials. In July 1933, 3 years before he became the King of England, Edward paid a visit to Kaiser Wilhelm II's grandson, Prince Louis Ferdinand. During their time together, Edward was recorded as saying that it was no business of ours to interfere in Germany's internal affairs, either regarding Jews or anything else. This alone is disturbing, as it would appear that Edward was indifferent to the persecution of the Jewish people that was already beginning. However, what he later said was even more disconcerting. During the same visit, Edward VIII was documented as saying, "Dictators are very popular these days. We might want one in England before long." You can understand why the leadership of Britain would be wary of this young royal family member, especially when war with Germany was looking more and more like a reality. In 1936, when Edward VIII became king after his father's death, the British government started to panic. Prime Minister Stanley Baldwin ordered MI5 to begin a surveillance campaign to keep tabs on the new king and his relationship with the Nazi Party in Germany. Edward's phones were tapped, and his Scotland Yard security detail fed information back to MI5, so that if Edward ever decided to throw his full support behind Germany, he could be stopped. Once war broke out, extra surveillance was placed on Edward VIII. The government felt he was a huge liability that needed to be dealt with. It was actually Winston Churchill who took serious action to make sure that the Duke of Windsor did not become more of a problem than he already was. While under surveillance, Edward's telegrams and cables to Nazi Party members were recorded and kept classified. Churchill and other members of the British government did not want the world to learn about the Duke's connection with the Nazis for obvious reasons. In fact, Prime Minister Churchill was so concerned about what Edward might do that he asked him to become governor of the Bahamas. This would mean that Edward would be forced to leave Europe. It was 1940 and World War II had begun. Edward did not want to leave Europe, so he reminded Churchill of the status of the army and how he should remain on the continent to help with the war effort. Churchill was not amused and clearly did not trust the Duke, so he sent him a telegram stating that even major generals could be court-martialed. Edward VIII was eventually persuaded, or forced, to agree to Churchill's terms. It is unclear how, but the Nazis found out that Edward was being shipped across the Atlantic. It seems as if they were reluctant to lose their connection to the British royalty. When secret German documents were later found, they contained a plan called Operation Willy. At the time, Edward and his wife were in Nazi-controlled Paris. They fled to Spain and then to Portugal, which was still neutral. However, this did not stop German Foreign Minister Joachim von Ribbentrop from ordering local Nazi dignitaries to seek out and meet with the Duke and Duchess of Windsor. In the documents later recovered by Allied forces, the Nazis had noted that Edward voiced his displeasure with the royal family, the British government, and Winston Churchill. The Nazis may have thought this meant it was time to recruit the Duke as an ally. It seems Edward intended to go to the Bahamas even after meeting with Nazi officials, so Ribbentrop fed the Duke of Windsor false information that he was being targeted by British operatives that were planning to assassinate him. The Germans encouraged the royal couple to come back to Spain, where the Nazis could protect them, and if they helped with the war effort, Edward would be placed on the throne of Britain once again. He would only be a puppet king, but it was one way the Nazis tried to entice the Duke. Although this is not the course history took, it's interesting to note that Edward did not inform British authorities of the conversations he had with Nazi officials. Instead, they had to find out about them through classified documents uncovered after the war. This was a little shady on Edward's part, and even once Edward reached the Bahamas, he continued to publicly speak out about his lack of faith in Britain winning the war. So whether Edward VIII was best friends with Hitler or not, he definitely was close enough with members of the Nazi Party to be in communication with them even during World War II. But there is another part to the story. It is the reason that this information was held from the public for so long. It isn't a conspiracy theory per se, but the suppression of information around Edward VIII's connections and communications with head Nazi leaders does beg the question, who is responsible for hiding this information for so long, and why? Surprisingly, it was not just the British government who wanted to conceal the documents connecting Edward VIII to the Nazis from the world. Churchill was definitely the most vocal proponent of suppressing the info, but he was not the only one. Churchill pleaded with the French and United States to keep the documents connecting the Duke to Hitler and the Nazis classified. Eventually, everyone agreed to keep the secret, but decades later, numerous documents were released on the matter. The reasons we know about the connections between Edward VIII and the Nazis is because of the German files found at the end of World War II. One cache of documents discovered at Marburg Castle consisted of around 400 tons of paper. Around 60 of those documents contained what became known as the Windsor File, which included German communications with the Duke and Duchess of Windsor. Recent documents released in 2017 by the British government contain information on how Churchill tried to suppress the Windsor File. He especially did not want the documents containing the communications between the Duke of Windsor and Nazi officials about Operation Willie to be released to the public. The documents also contain information about how Churchill contacted President Dwight D. Eisenhower to convince him to keep the Windsor File classified for 10 to 20 years. We cannot know with absolute certainty if any of the documents in the Windsor File were fabricated to be used as propaganda or blackmail against the British royal family, but many scholars believe that all the files are genuine and that Edward VIII was closer to Hitler and the Nazis than the world knew at the time. It's also clear that Allied leaders such as Churchill and Eisenhower hid the Windsor File from the world, perhaps to distance members of the royal family from the Duke's connection to Nazi Germany. Now watch what actually happened to Nazi leaders after World War II, or check out the Nazis' secret plan to destroy the British economy.
How's it going, guys? If you've followed me for any length of time, you would know that Naruto is my #1 favorite anime ever. This is something I've planned to make ever since I started my channel, so the fact that you're seeing it at all is pretty surreal. The more I wrote this project, the more I realized how much I had to say on the topic, and really what I wanted to accomplish in the process. So right here at the start, I think it would be helpful to lay out the 3 things that I think this project really became. The first is, of course, talking holistically about Naruto in regards to both its strengths, weaknesses, and everything in between. The second is talking about a lot of the misconceptions people have of the series, and in general how people have come to view it. And of
Before we go any further, I want to thank the sponsor for this video, Leadify. Leadify is an AI coach that allows you to improve faster by analyzing your Face-It or matchmaking games and giving you insight into your weaknesses.
Today I'm going to be breaking down the different types of Air Jordan 1s. Not the colorways, but the types. For example, we have a low top, we have a mid top, we have a high top. I'm going to break it down for you. There's almost 20 different types of Jordan 1s, and then obviously hundreds of colorways, but we'll get into that in today's video. Welcome back to the channel. What's up with you guys? How you doing? How you been? If you did not know by now, my name is DJ, and this is The DNA Show. Now, if you haven't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Join the family, join the squad. You already know what to do, man. Hit that like button because you already know that helps the algorithm oh so much. Get this question a lot, and people don't understand.
Why does my Retro have a Jumpman on it and not have a Nike Air on the tag? Or why does the back look like this? Or why is there a difference in price between these 2 shoes if they look so similar?
I'm gonna start with the low tops, and then we're gonna work our way to the mids, and then we'll go to the highs, and then we'll go to the extra highs. I don't even know there's extra highs, huh? Crazy. So first up is the Air Jordan 1 Low. Now this one right here, a lot of people think it is the same as the OG Low, but it's a lot different. And I'm gonna show you a prime example for you to tell is looking at the back of the shoe. If you look at the back right here, we have the OG Low cut right here, we have the retro low cut right here. So if you can see this tab right here that comes around and then it just regular swoosh comes back like this, that's a huge difference between the 2 shoes. Also, the OG cut is a little bit more narrow around the midfoot, and then the tongue and everything is a lot different here on the OG cut as well. You got a Nike Air on the tongue, and then you got a Jumpman on the tongue right here. So those are some big giveaways between the 2 shoes when it comes to an Air Jordan 1 Low or Air Jordan 1 OG Low. Similar to the OG Low cut, we have an Air Jordan 1 Nike SB. Now if you look at the tag of that shoe, it's gonna have the Nike SB branding on the tag, but then the back of the foot around the heel is gonna have that OG cut style. And last up for the low tops, we have the Air Jordan 1 Low Fat. Now this is a part of the Fat series, which is honestly kind of funny because I think it's more to like a SB style because they made it really padded around the ankle area or the lower ankle area, whatever you want to consider that, and it's called the Fat 1 Low. But it's interesting because you would think that the SB would be like that style. Also in this video, I won't be mentioning any of the women's cuts when it comes to the lows, mids, or highs. I can make a separate video for that because there's so many different styles when it comes to the women's as well. So if you want to see a video on the women's cuts, drop a comment down below and I'll try to get that one put out for you guys. Now let's take it to the mids. So when it comes to the mid or the 3/4 Air Jordan 1, a lot of people like to call it one, a lot of people like to call it the other. But if you look at this one right here, this is probably one of my favorite mid colorways of all time. There were a lot of Jordan 1 mids that came out in that early 2000s era to the 2010 era, and that 10-year period, and they were cut just a little bit different than the newer mids that have released over the past maybe 5 to 7 years that we have been seeing releasing to the public. So they are a Jordan 1 mid, and then the different materials and the color patterns and all those different things, but at the end of the day, they still fall in that category as the Air Jordan 1 mid. Now, if you ever notice, there's never really like an OG cut when it comes to the mid. It's mainly the high and the low. So you really just got your retro Air Jordan 1 mid, or you have your alpha Air Jordan 1 mid. This one right here, a lot of people get this one confused, saying,
Oh, that's like the Chicago one.
but it's really not. It is a lot more comfortable, but at the same time, the materials on the upper and then the outsole, you can clearly see the difference between the OG, the alpha, and then the retro OG. So going to the Air Jordan 1 in the OG cut, OG high style, this is the one that everybody loves. This is probably one of the most coveted, one of the most iconic sneakers out there, and I completely understand why. People want a representation of the OG as much as possible. That's why the OG high Air Jordan 1 with the Nike Air on the tongue typically sells for a lot more money, unless the other one is just a crazy dope colorway and it's more rare than what you could get when it comes to an OG cut style. One big thing that a lot of people get mixed up is this right here, the Air Jordan 1 Retro High. You know a lot of these iconic colorways, and I'm not mad at them. I have some of them in my collection, and I love some of these colorways, but there's a huge difference between the two. A great example for the Retro Highs, as you can see right here, you have the Jumpman here on the tongue, Jumpman here on the back. This is not considered an OG high. That's the biggest difference when it comes to these two. Yes, it's a high top Air Jordan 1, but it's a retro, not an OG high. And those two letters, OG, is literally what's going to change the value. And then, well, I can't say it's going to change the value, but most of the time it does. But it's going to definitely change the look of the shoe. Now let's take it to the Air Jordan 1 OG high. You see the difference, the Nike Air here on the tongue compared to the Jumpman like on the retros. And then again, no Jumpman here on the back. And then you got your classic Nike branding, OG cut high style, everything like that. So this is a shoe, not, I mean, some people, I feel like most people like this colorway in particular. But when it comes to the OG high, this model, this style is the style that a lot of people like. Now there are differences when it comes to eras, when it comes to the cuts of the materials and everything like that, and how it's just slightly shaped a little bit different. These are both Air Jordan 1 OG high retros. Now you can see there is a little bit difference in the toe, different things like that. Obviously this one isn't laced up, but there are some differences between the eras. So now we know that this one came out a little bit longer ago, and then this one is more recent over the past 5 years, and that's just a little bit different when it comes to eras. But at the same time, both of these are going to hold their value because they're considered OG highs. Now also with the retro OG high, we have seen over the past couple years especially a lot, and when I say a lot of collaborations and a lot of dope crazy colorways similar to the Dior one. That's a retro OG high. And then you got examples like this, the backward swoosh, everything like that, but it's a retro OG high collaboration with Travis Scott. And the biggest thing right here, Nike Air here on the tongue. Even when you look at shoes like the Union, as you can see, Nike Air here on the tongue, Off-White, Air Jordan 1 OG high, Nike Air on the tongue, Nike Air on the tongue. Yes, they moved it to a different spot, but it still has that Nike Air on the tongue. Now I think when it comes to the Air Jordan 1 high, I think the SB series is something super dope because it is very similar and the quality is there when it comes to matching that OG high style. All they're really doing to me is just switching that SB right there on the top, as you can see it, instead of saying Nike Air. But overall, definitely similar shoe, but that's a big difference when it comes to availability, price, value, you know, just all these other factors. Now let's take it to the AJKO. Now this one right here, there are two different variations of this sneaker. This one has your classic Air Jordan 1 bottom on it. This was the first retro that we saw 10 years ago, and then we saw retros after that switched up the bottom. Me personally, I'm not a fan of the retros with a different bottom on them, but I just personally like this one. That's a preference thing, so I guess it doesn't really matter. Drop a comment down below and let me know which style you like more. A big thing that sticks out with a shoe like this is the AJKO right here on the wings logo, and probably one of the coolest things that have started a major trend is the flaps right here on the sides. Now a lot of people say,
All the flaps came from the Off-White. All the flaps came from the Off-White.
this came first. This was an OG style from way back in the day, and these flaps right here, super dope addition to the shoe. Now we see it coming on the Off-White sneaker or the Rookie of the Year or a different sneaker like that, or even like the Zoom Air Jordan 1. Now, not every Zoom has the flaps on the side, but it's based on the Zoom technology on the insole of the foot. Some people love it, some people hate it. Drop a comment down below and let me know if you like any of the Zoom Air Jordan 1s. Now this next one is very controversial, and that is the Air Jordan 1 Rare Air. Now you can see the difference. The biggest difference to me is the shape a little bit, but the Air Jordan on the side of the foot, you don't have your wings logo anymore, and a lot of people get that confused, thinking that they bought one shoe, but it's actually that shoe, and they're like,
Oh, well, it's like the same thing. Is this the Game Royal or is it not?
on the heel of this foot, you have your Nike Air branding that you would find on the tongue stitched on the back of the foot. I'm not opposed to models like this one in particular. Just me personally, I like more of the OG cut style. I haven't picked up a pair of Rare Air Jordan 1s yet, but maybe I might, maybe one day. I haven't found a colorway that I'm like, oh yeah, I need to have those over the other one that came out. So for me personally, I don't own any pairs, but if somebody does own them, I'm not bashing on them. I love them, I respect them. I think they're still dope. They're just different than the ones that we consider the OG cut style. Also, we cannot forget to mention the Flyknit Air Jordan 1. The entire upper of the sneaker is Flyknit. The insole and the midsole, it's just constructed a little bit different. And I'm telling you right now, they are way more comfortable than the OG high. Next up is the Air Jordan 1 85. Now we have seen a couple releases of this model. We haven't seen too many hit the public yet. I'm not exactly sure what Jordan Brand's gonna do, but I hope they don't flood the market with this style because they're trying to replicate the OG style as much as possible. That's why they call it the 85. And then the more of a narrow cut with a little bit different on the outsole and different things like that. You can clearly see the difference between this and this right here. As you can see, that one's a lot more narrow and a little bit different than that OG high that a lot of people have been looking for. But this shoe right here does hold its value, and I think it will continue to rise. Next up is a sleeper, and that is the Air Jordan 1 strap. I'm not mad at this style. Just me personally, I don't own any pairs in my collection. I might low-key just have to go out and grab one just cause. For example, you have a crazy version like this. That tongue is crazy, bro. I don't even know if I could do that one. Could you rock those? Drop a comment and let me know. All right, now let's look at the Air Jordan 1 extra one. You have a crazy pairs in my collection. I might low-key just have to go out and grab one just cause. For example, you have a crazy version like this. That tongue is crazy, bro. I don't even know if I can do that one. Could you rock those? Drop a comment and let me know. All right, now let's look at the Air Jordan 1 Extra High. So you can see right here, it almost looks like the retro high, but if you look at that back end around that collar meat right there, it's just a little bit taller than normal. I don't own any pairs of Extra High Air Jordan 1s. I'm not mad at them. I just don't think they're for me. And last on the list is the Air Jordan 1.5. Now you guys know there was a sample from way back in the day that Jordan had, and then we saw the retro come out to the public. A lot of people weren't really sure if they really liked it or not, but the Air Jordan 1.5 is an option. Me personally, I would like to get a pair in my collection. I'm not going crazy to have them, but if they do come my way and I find a size 13 for a good deal, I would probably pick them up just for nostalgia reasons. So I hope this video was helpful. I hope I was able to help you see the difference between the models, not just the colorways, but the reasons why people like certain shoes over other shoes. And now you understand the Nike Air and the other factors behind the shoes with the Jumpman, different things like that with the cuts, the Jordan logo on the side, you name it. Another big thing, a lot of people be bashing on Air Jordan 1 mids, and that's funny as hell to me because I remember back in the early 2000s time when you had Father's Days, Olympics, all these other, BMP, different dope colorways that was dropping around that era, people was going crazy, people was loving it. And then we got all the new sneakerheads that came into the game now.
Oh, Jordan 1 mids is weak.
And I'm like, come on, bro, really? And all the OG heads is like, oh, them is dope. I remember those, especially when I pull out something like this. I always get some appreciation from people. Something like this, you know what I'm saying? There's so many different good options. All I'm saying is, at the end of the day, buy what you like. And if you want to get mids, cop mids. If you want to buy the alphas, cop the alphas. I wouldn't buy the alphas, but you can do it if you want to. All right, you guys, my name is DJ. I'm signing out. I got to go. I'm gone. Peace.
What's up, individuals? Today I got 6 hairstyles that are perfect for receding hairlines or bigger foreheads, kind of like myself. Now we'll go ahead and use my hair for each example today, just because I do keep it disguised pretty well underneath this little messy fringe thing I got going on. But underneath this, I got myself a nice little 5 head going on. As you can see, my hairline does go back a little far near the corners. I'm not necessarily receding, however, ever since I was about 13 years old, I've always kind of had this pretty high hairline. With that said, I've had quite a few different hairstyles over the years that have helped me disguise that. So let's dive deep and go through. Now for the first 3 styles, I'm gonna use this cut right here. It's a high skin fade on the sides and back. The sides are disconnected while the back blends into the top. The top front is around 4.5 inches, and the top back is a little shorter, around 4 inches. Now first up, we're gonna go with something messy in texture that also has some subtle volume. And now in order to get this look, I'm gonna apply some sea salt spray to really thicken things up and add that volume boost. And then I'll take the blow dryer and start at the roots, hitting it from all different angles. Then about halfway through, I'll start blow drying the front up while scrunching it with my fingers just to add in some waviness and texture.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, my friends. Happy New Year. We are officially in the new decade, and I want to kick off this decade strong. Okay, that seems like a big statement. We're just talking about clothes here, but I do want to kick off this year strong at the very least by going back to the fundamentals of style. In today's day and age, it's easy to get overwhelmed by all of the information being thrown at us on a daily basis. And with 24/7 access to this pool of content that is the internet, we're seeing fashion bloggers left and right with widely different styles pulling off some crazy fits. We're being advertised to by a flurry of brands at every click, and when we hop onto any clothing brand's website, most of the time there are so many options that it becomes hard to differentiate them. And by the way, I don't think it's a bad thing. I love technology, love social media, I think it's a great tool when used right, and personally, I get a lot of my fashion inspiration from it, as well as inspiration for other areas of my life. But with all of this going on and bringing it down to fashion and style, we sometimes lose sight of the fundamentals of what makes a good outfit good, and how we can apply those fundamentals to our wardrobes to develop our own individual style. So in today's video, I want to go over 6 key fundamentals to building a good outfit. Some basics that are always good to revisit, and some a little more advanced. So whether you're just beginning to improve your style or you're a seasoned veteran, stick around, this is gonna be a good one. Starting off, we have fit. Basic, yes. Heck of important, very much yes. If you're watching this video, I'm going to assume you're not new to this concept. Your clothes need to fit, period. And by the way, fit is different from the shape of your clothes. This doesn't mean you shouldn't wear wider fits or even skinnier fits. This just means you need to take into consideration your actual body shape and size, and wear clothes that fit you, that aren't overly large or ridiculously tight. It means your pants should fit comfortably at your waist without needing a belt to hold them up. It means your t-shirt should look like a t-shirt, not like a dress or a crop top, unless the garment is intentionally designed that way to be oversized in certain areas. And there is a big difference between a piece of clothing that was intentionally designed to be oversized or cropped and a piece of clothing that is simply 2 sizes too big or 2 sizes too small. The former is generally cut by expert designers with a keen eye in a very precise fashion to be a little longer, larger, or shorter in certain areas of the garment, but not in others, while the latter just makes you look like you have no clue what you're doing. Take this t-shirt for example. It's got a slight drop shoulder, little longer sleeves, more of a relaxed boxy cut overall, but it's not actually longer or shorter than a regular t-shirt. It's got a regular length, just more of a relaxed cut, and it was very intentionally designed to be that way. So be aware of how your clothes fit you, especially the waist, inseam, and shoulder seams. At number 2, we have color. It's one thing to nail the fit, but if your colors are all over the place, it's not going to look very good either. As a general rule of thumb, less is more when it comes to color. Why do you think every style blog out there recommends going for neutrals? It's hard to mess up your color pairings when your entire wardrobe consists of navy, gray, and white. But I assume many of you want to incorporate a little more color than that, and understandably so. One easy guideline you can follow is to stick to 3 colors max in an outfit, including 2 neutrals. The colors generally considered as neutrals in fashion are black, gray, white, navy, brown, khaki, and deep cream tones like off-white and beige, which are really just lighter shades of brown. This doesn't mean that you can't be more adventurous and wear more than 3 colors, or multiple bold colors. It's just a general guideline to help you not mess up an outfit if you feel like you're more at the beginning stages of your understanding of fashion. But then it's up to you to discover and develop your own style through trial and error, and over time you'll find that you gravitate towards certain colors more. You might find that you like to keep a very neutral, monochromatic color palette, or you might find that you like having lots of bright, bold colors, or you might be somewhere in between and just have 1 or 2 statement colors that you'll occasionally wear. You'll also figure out that some colors might work better against your skin tone, while others will make you look dry and washed out. I'm going to do a full video on color theory and skin tones in the future, but in the meantime I did make a video on how to color block that should bring you a fair bit of insight and help you better understand color, regardless of whether or not you're interested by the specifics of color blocking. I'll link to it in the description, and remember, when in doubt, less is more. Texture is oftentimes the unsung hero in fashion. Proper use of texture can turn a good outfit into a great one, and when pulled off correctly, people will appreciate your style even more as they get up close and see the attention to detail that you put in. Different textures can give off different moods, different vibes to an outfit. The key is to be very intentional with your choice of fabrics. For example, blending the cozy, wintry feel of fleece with old school corduroy trousers and chunky sneakers with soft, supple leather makes for a great mix because each texture is different enough that no one piece gets lost in the mix, and they all complement each other nicely because they have the same underlying tone of that cozy, winter streetwear vibe. Where it gets dangerous is if you try to pull off the same exact texture from head to toe, because then you risk having it look too costumey. On the contrary, you can also opt for a look that has no visible texture at all, which can make for a very minimal, modern look, and with the right pieces, it can feel quite sophisticated and elegant.